I really wrestled through whether or not to share this video from this young man at Texas State University who was really involved in Turning Point USA, went to the memorial, and this young man named Mason writes this powerful letter about why he is leaving Turning Point USA. I would never just blindly share something, so I went to look at a couple other videos on his account and trying not to cry. The spiritual mama bear in me who worked with students for over a decade, who was an evangelical minister. The few posts that I saw were very harsh, to the point where I thought I shouldn't share this because I don't want to affirm him in... I don't really have words. I'm choosing them carefully because he's young. He's really young, and there's no way for that not to sound patronizing, but he's very young.
For a young man, a young white male man.
To the Turning Point USA chapter at Texas State University and to whom it may concern. On September 10th, 2025, we witnessed one of the darkest days in American history. On a college campus just like ours, Charlie Kirk, an innocent man, was assassinated for being a Christian and for standing up for one thing, the truth.
I do want to push back on that because clearly we don't know. We don't know who killed him or why. We don't know. There hasn't been a trial yet.
Charlie was the guy that got me into politics, not because he won debates or was cool with Trump, but because of his faith in Jesus and his relentless pursuit of the truth. I watched him for years, and his boldness that was rooted in common sense gave me the confidence to voice my own opinions and talk to others who might disagree with me. On 9/11, the very next day, I joined the TPUSA chapter at Texas State University. Throughout my time involved on campus, especially during our September 15th memorial event, myself and others have received death threats, racist harassment, constant mockery, and a plethora of students, professors, and adults that joyfully cheered for the death of Charlie Kirk. Some of these moments even attracted national media attention. I always knew there was evil in the world, but after seeing how quickly and easily people celebrated someone getting shot in the neck, I then realized that there were a lot more demons in the world than I thought.
To see people celebrate that in any capacity is sickening.
They kind of justified it. They basically said that because Charlie said or believed things that they believed were controversial or even hateful, that he somehow had it coming.
I think there are many opportunities for some personal reflection. Some of these people that are screaming are also people that would celebrate Obama's passing or Biden's passing.
I don't feel bad at all. If anything, good riddance, because if someone came into your house trying to kill you and you shot and killed them, would you feel bad for them? No, of course not. Obviously you want people to come to Jesus, like pray for her family if you want, but when it comes to people trying to kill other people, good riddance. Good riddance to that chick for trying to kill one of our officers. Jesus is king, but don't do stupid things and you won't get stupid consequences.
Your attention, please. Jesus has left the building.
Do you think these protests are helping? Personally, I do not. I think it's demonic.
On September 21st, my dad and I flew to Glendale for the Charlie Kirk Memorial funeral. I can go on and on about that trip because it was truly one of the most powerful things I've ever witnessed, but that's not what this letter is about. I want to start off by quoting Charlie when he was on the PBD podcast in 2023. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right. We live in a sick world that hates the truth.
And when President Trump says he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
We're up against powerful forces of darkness and a sinister evil that never rests, Satan. I truly believe that there has been a massive worldwide manipulation of the Christian faith surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This strategy was used to weaponize people's faith in Jesus against themselves in order to make people believe a specific narrative. I will call this the all things are possible narrative. This is the narrative that the current Turning Point USA has pushed relentlessly. They want you to believe Tyler Robinson was the lone shooter. They want you to believe that Charlie's bones were so healthy and had a spine like Superman that his neck stopped a .30-06 rifle and was a miracle that no one else was killed. They don't want any footage from Utah Valley University to be seen, and they have done everything they can to backtrack Charlie's stances on many topics, especially Israel and Iran. Any of this narrative, according to TPUSA and many others who I will mention in this letter, you are a crazy and demonic conspiracy theorist that hated Charlie. I've done extensive research on the .30-06. I've listened to gun experts, former US soldiers, and have done my own research on its capabilities. This weapon is capable of killing any land animal on Earth. This includes moose, bears, elk, elephants, buffalo, rhinos, etc. I will now read Andrew Colvette's tweet from X on September 20th in its entirety. I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize, this is somewhat graphic, but in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital, ... He said the bullet, quote, absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. End quote. But it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent, and he replied, quote, it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed, end quote. Quote, his bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too, end quote. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Remarkable, miraculous, end quote. Andrew Colvett, September 20th, 2025, via X. This is just one of the many ways, especially early on after Charlie's death, that Turning Point USA has used the Christian faith to coerce people into believing their narrative and that there's nothing more to know. No need to ask questions, end of story. Deception does many things. It distorts perception of reality, the truth, reduces critical thinking, hijacks people's emotions easily, manipulates group behavior, rewrites memory of past events, and desensitizes people to contradictions. And now comes the part of this letter that will be controversial to many. The reasons that ultimately led me to completely disassociate from Turning Point USA. I have three main reasons. Number one, Erica Kirk. I have three main points with Erica that I will briefly address. Number one, ASU, Arizona State University. Erica Kirk held an unregistered secret meeting that triggered a formal investigation and massive lawsuit. Someone leaked a video saying whether or not we should be, showing Erica talk about the war, saying whether or not we should be at war with Iran. She said, quote, my husband isn't here to say whether or not we should be at war with Iran. I would love for him to be here right now to tell us if we should or should not. I would love it. I miss his voice more than anything in this world, end quote. She deflected the student's question about Iran and told the chapter to focus on freedom of speech. Charlie's stance on Iran was extremely clear. Go look at the videos and do your research. Number two, University of Arkansas. In early March, Erica Kirk visited Arkansas and was joined by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Keep that brief interview in mind for future reference. 1 week later, the TPUSA chapter at the University of Arkansas announced that they unanimously decided to completely disassociate from Turning Point USA and would move forward as the Young American Revival at UARK. Their chapter president stated, quote, after discussion with my executive board, we have come to the unanimous decision to dissolve our affiliation with Turning Point USA and rebrand our registered student organization under our own label, Young American Revival at the University of Arkansas. This decision was not made lightly. We discussed this for some time, weighing the pros and cons and seeking spiritual discernment. We have many grievances with Turning Point USA, which we will shortly make known to them in private, but I will share only one. We are generally put off by how Charlie Kirk has been used by TPUSA since his assassination. Statements like Charlie would have said and Charlie would have wanted have felt in many instances disingenuous and manipulative. Charlie Kirk cannot speak for himself anymore, and we do not recognize the way others have attempted to speak for him. Though the one thing I always took away from my interactions with Charlie was the importance of being your own man or woman. Sometimes that means making tough decisions, just like this one. That was Dino Fantagrossi, a 5-year TPUSA member at the University of Arkansas. Dino in his chapter also stated that they believe TPUSA has lost sight of conservative values and what is truly important. Quote, we are no longer focused on our guiding North Star, that is, fighting for conservative policy, principles, and values.
At this point, it struck me how much I have appreciated the left and the right coming together over this, how much I've appreciated having MAGA followers, that all that has been put aside. All the argument over political stuff has been put aside. And I thought, wow, when Turning Point finally falls, which I'm confident that they will, it'll go back to that kind of banter. And I've really enjoyed and appreciated being unified over this. So I hope that we can, still have some of that. We'll always have the Epstein files.
Instead, it feels we have become consumed with metrics, creating the next viral cultural moment. We have become reactionary when we need to be proactive, end quote. This entire situation and the boldness of that chapter is one of the main reasons I'm writing this letter today. Number 3 on Erica Kirk, the leaked Zoom and audio. On January 28th, a TPUSA internal call led by Erica Kirk on September 16th, 2025 was leaked. This call took place 6 days after her husband Charlie Kirk was assassinated on live TV. I encourage anyone reading this to watch that Zoom call in its entirety through an unbiased lens. Pay attention to what was said, the tone, emotion, body language, and the timing of this call, 6 days after he was killed. She starts off the Zoom call joyfully laughing and smiling about the thumbs up on the call. She then, in the most emotionless and disingenuous way, says, quote, "I just wanted to say first and foremost, my heart obviously is broken for you guys as much as it is for our family. You guys lost not only a boss, but someone that you looked up to," end quote. She then assures the employees that no one's job is in jeopardy because you're family. I want to highlight some quotes from that call from her. Quote, "Everyone grieves differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that. The fact that a lot of you guys are here in office, that's what he would have wanted. We're going to work hard because that's what he would want. I want our family to stay together. I feel so blessed and honored," end quote. On January 27th, audio from a Zoom call on September 22nd, 2025, one day after Charlie Kirk's memorial funeral in Glendale, Arizona, was leaked. I again encourage anyone reading this to listen to the call in its entirety through an unbiased lens, as I will only be briefly mentioning some of the quotes from that call. She starts off this call laughing again and smiling about the Zoom emojis. Totally joyful, unbothered tone. Here are some of the quotes. Quote, "The fact that we were able to pull off an event of the century. We had thousands that were registered to vote. I think we're at like over 200,000 for merch sales. My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. We are moving forward. Turning Point USA 2.0 with Charlie in our hearts, and that's what he would want." And then she laughs briefly after. "Full steam ahead, you guys. Charlie would want us to get back to work. We have so much to do, which is exciting. Charlie in heaven is like, you guys thought you had a busy schedule, then just you wait. He's doing some awesome things with Jesus in heaven right now. Since his assassination, we have 100,000 chapter requests. We have 300,000 new donors. I think we have 50,000 plus hat orders to fulfill. We have over 20,000 AmFest registrations," end quote. This is not normal. It is deeply disturbing, and I refuse to stay silent about the obvious disingenuousness spewing out of this woman's mouth. I was at the funeral. I was at AmFest. I was at TPUSA headquarters and saw the thousands of vigils there. I defended this woman for months. At the time, her speech at the funeral genuinely made me emotional. I stood up for her online and in person in the midst of death threats, mockery, and satanic hatred that was thrown my way on a daily basis. No one was rooting for her more than me. I was unfollowed by so-called friends when I was posting about all of this. When it comes to Erica Kirk, no one, at least that I know of, stood firmly on her side through everything more than me.
What you're witnessing with Erica is Philippians 4:7, that she possesses a peace that surpasses all understanding.
I was taught from a young age to have discernment, to not blindly follow the crowd, and to not be a sheep. And this is what most Christians lack.
He just got finished saying how much he defended Erica Kirk to the extent that he thought nobody defended more. So how quickly we forget what we have been delivered from, so to speak, and condemn others. Just a few months ago, he was one of those sheeple. That's a word, right?
The ability to take time to critically think and the will to stand up and fight for the truth, regardless of what people think about you. The raw, authentic emotion I have seen in so many fellow college students and others over the past 7 months doesn't even compare to the bad act Erica has put on for all of us. We are in the midst of a mass deception and a worldwide manipulation of the truth and the Christian faith when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk on September 10th, 2025. My second point for leaving Turning Point USA and writing this letter. Aubrey Leitch and other fired former Turning Point USA employees. Aubrey is the former public relations manager for Turning Point USA and was part of the mass termination group that was fired in January of 2026. She worked for the ATK company, which is Andrew Colvette's private business that contracts out with Turning Point USA. She had been with Turning Point USA since 2021.
5 years at a company for a boomer or Gen Xer may not seem like that long, but to somebody in Gen Z, that's like 35 years. I did the 7-year dog thing.
Don't ever let anyone talk down to you.
She stated, quote, "I wanted to work hard for both Andrew and Charlie, for my coworkers and for the Lord. I really believed in the mission of Turning Point and what we were doing," end quote. Aubrey was pulled into a meeting with Andrew Colvette and Marina Minez, the CMO of TPUSA, and was told she was fired, reason being a totally bogus Uber story that sounds completely made up of her. These next statements from Aubrey and others like them from ex-Turning Point employees are another one of the main reasons I'm writing this letter today. Quote, I just have a gut feeling that I was terminated from Turning Point because I am questioning the narrative of what happened to my role model and CEO Charlie Kirk on the day of his assassination. What is being told to us in the mainstream media just doesn't add up to me, and I'm really hopeful that one day it will, but as it stands right now, it just doesn't. As an American citizen, I have the right to my freedom of speech and my freedom of thought, and I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions about what took that day and the events leading up to that day. She goes on to say, it is from my own experience that you can't question the narrative and work at Turning Point. That is how I feel, that is how other people I've talked to feel, and it goes against everything that Charlie ever stood for. Charlie was someone who did question things, who did challenge the narrative. I'm not going to just idly sit by and hope the truth comes to light. I'm going to take action. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to talk to other people, and I refuse to apologize for having my own freedom of thought, which is something that Charlie ingrained in me and so many other young people. All of these people who have been terminated were the most hardworking, honest employees that Turning Point has ever had. I'm doing this for them, and I'm doing this for friends who I consider family who are still there. It literally breaks my heart to make this video, but I know that I owe it to Charlie and that this would be the expectation for me. And so that's why I'm doing it. Everything's for Charlie, end quote. I encourage anyone who is reading this to watch her video in its entirety through an unbiased lens.
My name is Aubrey Leitch, and I am the former public relations manager for Turning Point USA. And I was a part of the recent kind of mass termination group at Turning Point, and was let go about 3 weeks ago. And at the time of my release, I was working for the ATK company, which is spokesman Andrew Colvet's private business that contracts out with the Turning Point kind of ecosystem. So encompassing of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. I was working directly for him. Prior to that, I did work for Turning Point USA. So I've been with the organization since 2021. So my boss, Andrew Colvet, and I had a very close working relationship. I talked with him on a weekly, if not daily basis. My tasks were assigned by him to me. Working directly for him was a challenge and very intimidating because, you know, he was Charlie's right-hand guy, always in Charlie's ear, constantly. And so it was very important to me to be an impressive and loyal employee to Andrew, to which I believe I certainly was. I did so many things for that company. I worked many, many hours outside of my general kind of understanding of what this job entailed. And I had no problem with it because I wanted to work hard for both Andrew and Charlie, for my coworkers, and for the Lord. And that was the expectation that Charlie had for us as well, was to work very hard. I really believed in the mission of Turning Point and what we were doing. So taking you back all the way to 2021 when I first started working at Turning Point, let's be honest. Being a conservative was not very cool or trendy back then. I think we really owe it to a lot of the work that Charlie put in and us at Turning Point put in. It kind of made conservatism more cool and trendy. But back then, it wasn't very cool. And so it was such a beautiful thing to be kind of plopped into this place of employment where everybody was so like-minded. It was just such a fun place to work. I had nothing but wonderful experiences right from the start. But then in, I'd say around 2022 or 2023, things kind of started to change. The energy kind of had shifted within the organization as a whole. And I believe that stemmed from Charlie sort of taking a step back and kind of more taking that true CEO leadership role. And Charlie decided to entrust some of these people that had been working at Turning Point and some outside hires to kind of take more of a leadership position within the organization. And I don't blame Charlie for that. I kind of understood where things were going. I wasn't a big fan of the energy and kind of environment shift, but I understood why things like this needed to happen. These people that Charlie put into leadership positions, I didn't always agree with, but I was certainly in no place to judge the discretion of my CEO. I trusted that he put the right people in charge, but over time I pretty quickly learned that some of these people in leadership positions were not people that I felt were either prepared or qualified to be or deserving to be in that role. Fast forwarding a few years from that time I just spoke about in 2022, 2023, all the way up until September 10th, 2025. Obviously, it was an extremely traumatizing day for everyone. I think pretty much everyone in the world with any amount of sanity was slightly traumatized by what they saw. It was an extremely traumatizing day for me. And I worked nonstop. My phone received hundreds of phone calls on September 10th, thousands of text messages, and multiple times I kind of got reprimanded for not being responsive enough to people, but I literally just could not keep up with everything that was happening between my email and my personal phone and my work phone. It was just nonstop. And I've seen a video of a coworker of mine who was also released from Turning Point. She spoke about 20-hour days. Yeah, absolutely. Those were very, very real, especially for those first 2 months post Charlie's assassination. In December, we obviously had America Fest here in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was nonstop work too. And so really it's just been go, go, go for almost the past 6 months with like no extra compensation, no breaks, no real, hey, let's grieve as a family, you know, let's take some time and we'll pick back up where we left off in just a little while. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Charlie was someone who always expected us to push through and to continue to work. However, I think that these are extremely unprecedented circumstances in which we were all under. And so that was a huge turnoff for me at the organization, was just how everything has been handled since 9/10. During the memorial, for example, I literally did not sleep for over 48 hours. Despite all of that, I want to go ahead and fast forward to my termination, which took place about 3 weeks ago. And I was brought into an office to have a discussion just generally about my employment. It was myself, Andrew Colbett, and Marina Muniz, who is the CMO of Turning Point USA, who I used to work for when I was just full-time with Turning Point prior to joining the ATK company. They pulled me into a room and they sat me down and told me that there were 2 instances they wanted to talk to me about, one of which is pretty irrelevant to this timeline. So I'm just going to talk about the one, which was an Uber ride that took place allegedly in the months of either October or November of 2025. And what was told to me was that a Turning Point executive got into an Uber one day and they randomly just kind of started talking about Turning Point. And the executive asked the driver, what do you think about Turning Point? And the driver proceeded to tell the Turning Point executive, well, it's just really sad. I've heard the organization's really going downhill. There's not really a direction and nobody likes Erica. And the Turning Point executive proceeded to ask this Uber driver, well, who told you that? And the Uber driver told the Turning Point executive that his daughter was good friends with a girl that worked at Turning Point way back when in high school. They had spoken about Turning Point since Charlie's assassination, and that, you know, this was told to him by his daughter. And the Turning Point executive, of course, asked, well, what's the employee's name? And the Uber driver allegedly said, Aubrey. Aubrey who? Aubrey Leitch. And the story was presented to me as one of the reasons for my termination. And I was just a little taken aback because, number one, I'm not really friends with anybody from high school. And a lot of that has to do with my political beliefs. I've been a conservative since I was pretty much a junior in high school. And so I don't know who I would have told this story to. And it also doesn't even align with my true thoughts of Erica at the time. I've actually known Erica since 2013. We were doing pageants around the same time as one another. She was in the Miss USA organization and I was in the Miss United States organization. And we happened to cross paths at an event. So I've known Erica for quite some time. And my thoughts of her and nobody liking her do not align whatsoever with that timeline of October or November. So that was one of Turning Point's reasons for letting me go. So unlike my peers, I actually was given reason. However, there's another thing I kind of want to dive into. To protect myself, I am going to preface with Turning Point has not insinuated this. They never told me anything like this. However, I just have a gut feeling that I was terminated from Turning Point because I am questioning the narrative of what happened to my role model and CEO Charlie Kirk on the day of his assassination. What is being told to us in the mainstream media just really doesn't add up to me. And I'm really hopeful that one day it will. But as it stands right now, it just doesn't. And so I've been here in the background talking with people, expressing how I truly feel, because as an American citizen, I have the right to my freedom of speech and my freedom of thought. And I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions about what took place that day and the events leading up to that day. It is from my own experience that you can't question the narrative and work at Turning Point. That is how I feel. That is how other people I've talked to feel. It goes against everything that Charlie ever stood for. Charlie was someone who did question things, who did challenge the narrative. And I know that if anything at all were to have happened to myself or another employee or any other peer within the Turning Point family, that Charlie would be doing the same thing if we were brutally assassinated in the way that he was. He would have never lived it down. And that is what I'm standing by as well. I am not going to just idly sit by and hope that the truth comes to light. I'm going to take action. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to talk to other people. And I refuse to apologize for having my own freedom of thought, which is something that Charlie ingrained in me and so many other young people. So really the purpose of me coming on here and speaking with you today is to just bring light to the situation of the treatment happening inside the organization. All of these people who have been terminated were the most hardworking, loyal, honest employees that Turning Point has ever had. And I know that because I've actually been at Turning Point longer than most people. That's public record. You can see it for yourself on these job websites. Turning Point's average length of employment is about 1.5 to 2 years. And so to be there for almost 5 years is actually quite some time. I've seen the media and marketing team, for example, turn over at least twice, consuming of about 40 people. And so I know that these people have been some of the most loyal, hardworking, and honest individuals to ever pass through the organization because I've been there, done that, and seen it all. I'm doing this for them. And I'm doing this for my friends who I consider family who are still there in hopes that they will start to receive better treatment by the leadership there because nobody deserves to be let go without cause. And frankly, it's a loss for Turning Point. We're all going to be better off because of this because we have removed ourselves from an environment that was no longer serving us. And in my opinion, no longer serving the Lord, which was Charlie's entire intention. The other purpose of this video is to bring to light the fact that although Turning Point is an organization that is all about freedom of speech and promoting that, from my experience, it is certainly not a place where that is something that is really accepted. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want this to be the ending result for me or for Turning Point. It literally breaks my heart to make this video. But I know that I owe it to Charlie and that this would be the expectation for me. And so that's why I'm doing it. Everything's for Charlie. Overall, it's really disappointing to see the direction in which Turning Point is going. And that is maybe one thing right that they got about this Uber ride is I'm not confident in where it's going as it stands right now. And I'm really disappointed by that because I packed up and moved my entire life back to my hometown solely for the purpose of working for Turning Point. That is how much I love this place. I just refuse to stand by, watch my peers be unfairly treated, and watch leadership attempt to take over something that was Charlie through and through and something that he poured his heart, soul, and mind into building and creating and maintaining. I appreciate everyone who stuck around for the entirety of this video, and God bless you all.
Number 3 of why I'm writing this letter, Candace Owens.
Yeah, we all need a friend like Candace. She's been working her arse off.
Candace Owens has become the most demonized and hated person in conservative politics in recent memory, and it's not even close. Evil absolutely hates getting exposed, and demons truly do walk among us.
It's actually not theologically sound to say demons walk among us. Now, people can be possessed, and Therefore, in that sense, now believers cannot be possessed because, the Holy Spirit, it's like oil and water, demon can't. But demons can latch onto us and often whisper to us in our own voices, telling us how worthless and, that kind of, I'm just kind of telling what they say to me sometimes. But obviously people can act in a manner that we would consider demonic. Demons are spirits, so they can't just walk among us. They have to, inhabit.
No one has worked harder in this investigation of Charlie Kirk's murder more than Candace. I posted a tweet on X on October 6th that still holds up today. I said, Candace Owens is currently the most important journalist in America, and it's not even close. She's exposing evil and asking questions that no one else will. All because she has questioned the official narrative surrounding the death of her friend. She has been relentlessly called a demon, psychotic, evil, and, quote, literally the most evil human being to walk the face of the earth.
That in his other videos, he straight up does what he's accusing them of doing here.
She's a psychopath. She has no sense of truth in anything she has ever said.
I'm a pastor. Of course I believe that all lives matter, but right now, black lives are the ones under attack. The divine, beloved, and acceptable exactly as they are. No exceptions.
So this is obviously not a well person. This is a mentally ill person who is posing as a pastor. She's a false prophet. She is a sick human being. This is evil. It's evil straight from Satan. These people deserve to be put in prison.
Some of the main people blindly regurgitating this hatred include Graham Allen, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Brandon Tatum, David Harris, Laura Loomer, and Jeremy Boring. You are all untruthful, low IQ, un-American cowards. That's really all I have to say about Candace. Her videos speak for themselves. If you aren't watching her episodes and seeing how she makes her connections, who her sources are, etc., you literally don't have a valid opinion about her. Watching out of context 10-second clips and saying, how dare she attack a widow with children, makes you an untruthful, low IQ human being. Being a widow and having children does not exempt you from being guilty of something. It's all embarrassing. I genuinely feel like people think this is a game. Like it's a form of entertainment to see who's right versus who's wrong. This is real life. This is the investigation of an assassination that, in my opinion, changed the course of American history. I've said this from the very beginning. Is Candace going to be right about every theory she has? Of course not. But it is far better to search for the truth and expose evil people compared to staying silent and doing nothing with the fear of dividing or offending. It is weak, it's cowardly, it's ignorant, and it's something that will expose darkness in the hearts and minds of people. Luke 8:17 says, for nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. In the midst of all the lies and trash thrown at Candace and anyone pushing back against the narrative over the last 7 months, I've been thinking about that scene from the movie Prisoners where Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays a detective, is totally pissed and throws everything off his desk because he can't figure out what happened to the kidnapped little girl he was trying to find. He kept hitting dead ends. He felt like he had dug himself in a hole of hopelessness because he couldn't solve the case. He had evidence, he had leads, but he was pissed because he couldn't get to the bottom of it until something clicked. Evidence that was initially overlooked started making sense. He was connecting dots and he was able to take down some evil people because it was finally making sense. Now back to Charlie. In an investigation, most of the time you're going to have theories that don't end up being true. But without asking those questions, without failing, it's impossible to get to the truth. So anyone trashing Candace for trying to find out what happened to her friend that was murdered in broad daylight, you seriously need to check your hearts and minds because some of these people genuinely make me sick. I don't care how long it takes, evil needs to be exposed, and the only way that can be done is if the truth is the guiding light of your life. September 10th, 2025. I do not believe Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. The bullet they claimed killed him makes no sense, the angle makes no sense, and the narrative makes no sense. Now, at this point in time, and since early on, I believe that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by people close to him and was killed with an exploding lavalier lapel mic. The blood that came gushing out was an exit wound, and this theory is supported by the fact that his shirt puffed up upon detonation, his necklace was violently flung off, and one of his security guards can be seen clenching his fist the very millisecond that the explosion went off. I think the sound of the shot was way too high-pitched, and the circumstances surrounding Charlie's autopsy were extremely suspicious. We still haven't seen or even talked about the camera 5 feet away from Charlie to his left, the same side as the exit wound. There's so many things I could deep dive into about that horrible day, but for now, I will only mention one more, and that is the extremely bizarre behavior from Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, Mikey McCoy. Step back from all of this. Put yourself in that scenario. Imagine yourself there on that day. Gunshot rings out. Everyone, thousands of people hit the deck, and you see Charlie falling out of his chair with blood everywhere. What would you do? How would you react in those few seconds? Keep that in mind. Why is it that Mikey McCoy, the second his friend is shot right in front of him, damn near the second it happened, his phone immediately, not scrambling, but immediately goes to his ear and he walks completely unfazed and normally without looking back even a single time? He still hasn't answered for this. In December, I was in a private TPUSA meeting with Mikey, Blake Neff, and Greg Laurie at AmFest. If I had the perspective I have now in that meeting, I straight up would have just interrupted it and called him out. So that is what I'm doing now. Mikey McCoy, you are a coward. You are hiding information about that day, and I will never stop calling you out until you answer for this, ever.
Mikey's behavior that day is bizarre. There's no way that cannot look suspicious. It's been criticized and broken down by pretty much everybody except, at Turning Point, where they're like, he's the most gentle, amazing guy, and he was trained by Charlie to call Erica immediately if something happened. Well, that's not who he called immediately. They lie. They lie lie. And they're also pushing really hard for Tyler to get convicted, which means get the death penalty. They are trying to get this kid killed.
I will now share a list of names based on the extensive research I have done in the past 7 months, my own personal experience with the organization, and events that I have attended in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This list is split up into 3 categories and reflect my own personal opinions of these people. I'm utilizing my First Amendment right to share what I believe to be the truth in order to ultimately find out what happened to Charlie Kirk on that day in Utah. The 3 categories of people on this list are people who I believe had foreknowledge and inside information, no matter how big or small, about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Number 2, people who I don't think necessarily had foreknowledge or inside information, at least not in the beginning, but have been absolute untruthful clowns to anyone questioning the official narrative that TPUSA and the mainstream media has relentlessly pushed. We will call this category the don't ask questions people. Number 3, people who have been absolutely demonized and smeared for questioning any of the narratives surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I have always, from the beginning, wanted justice for Charlie. I started speaking out about this just out of my need to process it and wanted to encourage people that they weren't alone. I mean, this kid is so on point when he says that just because she's a widow and has young children, it doesn't excuse her, especially with the hateful rhetoric that she has spewed since day one. So even though I've used humor to process some of these things to make this news more palatable for some of you who say they couldn't handle it otherwise, I have always taken this Justice for Charlie movement very seriously. And it went next level when I saw that podcast on August 6th that he did with Megyn Kelly, to see how upset he was and distressed he was. And when Erica Kirk went on a Fox morning show, which it's hard to narrow down, she did them all several times, it seems, she expressed how angry she was because people were going after her team and how stressed they were.
And my poor team is exhausted, and every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again?
Her husband was telling people that he knew that they were going to kill him. He was doing that the night before. For some reason, didn't let her know, which is interesting.
Foreknowledge. Number 1, Erica Kirk. I have done extensive research, watching videos, listening to people of grief counselors, psychologists, body language analysts, and therapists. I believe she knew this was going to happen to Charlie. And going on, Tyler Boyer, Andrew Colvette, Blake Neff, Frank Turek, Mikey McCoy, Charlie's Israeli security detail, the CIA/FBI, Built Incorporated, BILT, which is a 3D interactive and immersive intelligence, Accurate Energetic Systems, AES, which was the plant that exploded on October 10th, 2025, killing 16 people, leaving no survivors, which the DoD purchased a $500,000 extra small demolition charge, which I believe to be the lavalier lapel mic that Charlie Kirk was wearing on that day that killed him. The don't ask questions people that have been absolute clowns. I want to highlight 2 people first and then I'll go on. Graham Allen and Dan Bongino. You 2 are traitors to the United States of America, and you 2 genuinely make me sick. The un-Christ-like and untruthful behavior by both of you makes me sick to my stomach. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, David Harris, Brandon Tatum, Laura Loomer, Donald Trump, Jeremy Boring of the Daily Wire, Jack Posobiec, Rob McCoy, and Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. These are now the people that I believe have been completely demonized and smeared in the media and on social media and just anywhere, honestly. Number 1, and mostly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, Joe Kent, Stu Peters, Aubrey Leitch, and other fired Turning Point employees, Nick Fuentes, Baron Coleman, and even though he hasn't been touching on this subject a lot, Andrew Tate. They want us to believe it's a simple case that has been completely solved. Psycho-liberal college student with trans-furry boyfriend used his grandpa's rifle to kill Charlie. No need to ask questions, we got the guy. This is a cover-up. Let's go through some of the things about the assassination. So I briefly put together a list of bullet points that I will briefly say. Guy practicing his reaction before Charlie died. Suspicious movement and handoffs from Charlie's security after he was shot. The 30-06 makes no sense and didn't sound like a rifle. The lack of footage from campus. Decoy old guy that initially took the fall. Mikey McCoy reaction. What happened in the car to the hospital, ? Hospital footage seized by FBI. The disassembly and reassembly of the rifle. Fake texts between Robinson and Twiggs. Kash Patel, we got him, mistake. Dairy Queen cleared out and no footage. I want to highlight this one real quick. This is the one that I have not seen a lot of people talking about. The Dairy Queen that Tyler Robinson went into was completely cleared out either the day after or days after. I forgot when it was. Completely cleared out. No footage shown from it. No footage of which way he walked from. Completely cleared out. One of the most bizarre things ever. Going on. SD cards taken out of the camera after Charlie was shot. TPUSA stopped student from talking to camera after Charlie was shot. Blurry stairwell pic of Robinson, and then the clip of him walking by the house with a limp. Blurry rooftop footage is all we have, ? Body cam footage of Robinson arrest, ? Sheriff Nate Brooksby resigned now. No autopsy, at least not initially, it took forever, and then they told us what happened. Fort Huachuca, where was Erica? Joe Kent blocked by FBI. Charlie texting people about dying the day before. Pressure on Charlie from Israel donors. Bibi immediately saying he didn't kill Charlie and Israel had no involvement. Israeli linked phones on UVU campus on 9/10, confirmed by Candace Owens. New bullet story, bullet didn't match, that was this month. Pouring of concrete on active crime scene days later, that's another one I want to highlight. It's an active crime scene, they pour concrete on it and completely tamper with the evidence at the crime scene. You never see that ever, not even in movies. No rear camera until Candace leaked it. The meta glasses of security being clicked when Charlie was on the ground, he was looking at him. Who mic'd up Charlie that day? Egyptian planes in Provo, flight manifest and stuff.
Egyptian planes.
Israel IP address, Google searches where gun was found, and searches were made before 9/10. I'm pretty sure it was the house that we saw Tyler walk by that was searched up. Whether it was Israel, our own government, people close to Charlie that betrayed him, etc., I truly believe that this was a premeditated and coordinated assassination that took out a future president, Charlie Kirk. For better or for worse, this was the turning point of this country and things will never be the same. These past 7 months have taught me a lot. Demons truly do walk among us. And the type of sinister evil can only be defeated by one thing, Jesus Christ. As myself and others were completely and constantly mocked and receiving death threats, and after meeting with the president of Texas State University multiple times, I really had to ask myself if it was all worth it. Was standing up for Charlie, Erica, and TPUSA really worth getting all this evil thrown my way? And I believed it was. Charlie's relentless pursuit of the truth and his mission to help others truly inspired me and has made me a better man to this day. Every day I went out there to talk to people on and off campus, I had to mentally prepare. I had to ask myself if our chapter was attacked, if there was a shooting, a stabbing, whatever, any scenario where lives were at risk because of political violence, would I be okay with dying as I was preaching the gospel as a member of Turning Point USA? I was. I made peace with that because I truly thought what I was standing up and fighting for was right. To the leadership of the Turning Point USA chapter at Texas State University. I've loved getting to know all of you and being able to relate with our shared love and grief of Charlie Kirk and the mission he fought for. However, I can no longer in good conscience associate myself with the current TPUSA organization that we see today. after my independent research and the outspoken voices of former TPUSA employees, along with others looking for answers. I truly believe in my heart and with a critical thinking mind that Turning Point USA died with Charlie Kirk on that day. I strongly urge the leadership of the TPUSA chapter at Texas State University to follow the example set by the University of Arkansas by dissolving your affiliation with Turning Point USA and rebranding your registered student organization as Young American Revival at Texas State University. I respect whatever decision is made by the leadership of the chapter and will not speak negatively about it or anyone within it regarding this decision. Charlie's the reason why I started Let Me React and will continue to be one of my biggest inspirations in everything I do in the political realm. I hope you can see the truth in much of what I've said throughout this letter, and I hope you make the right decision. In the name of truth, in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of Charlie Kirk. I will leave you all with 3 quotes from Charlie that resonate deeply with me and push back against the narrative that is being pushed by the current Turning Point USA. In 2024, Charlie was speaking to people about the importance of playing offense as a conservative. He said, quote, "The cruelty is the point. We are dealing with savages. This is not normal. Ultra-revolution time. They are eating the country from within. The problem is they preempt us against offense, but that is not an excuse. We all have to play offense. We have to take the initiative, but here's the thing. We are not good offensive players. I'll prove it to you. Because conservatives definitionally are defensive. We are conserving against their offense. Our temperament is to build businesses and churches and be agreeable. We don't think like revolutionaries. Well, we got to change that." End quote. Charlie received numerous threats from Christian Zionists and Jewish donors. He was labeled an anti-Semite and conspiracy theorist for questioning anything regarding Israel. He confirmed this with Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro on his own podcast and at speaking events multiple times. He expressed that his life was in danger up until that September 10th day. I strongly encourage anyone reading this to please do your research and listen to Charlie's stances on Israel and Iran, especially in the months leading up to his death. Lastly, on this topic, I will share Charlie's words from a text message that he sent 48 hours before he was assassinated. These texts were brought to light by Candace Owens, and even Andrew Colvett admitted/confirmed they were real. Quote, "Just lost another huge Jewish donor. $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause." End quote. Third and last quote by Charlie. Quote, "I refuse to back down despite all the smears thrown at me because I learned during COVID. I learned when they told us it came from a bat in the Himalayas. I learned when they told us the vaccine was safe and effective. I learned when they told us that ivermectin was horse paste, that you better keep asking questions because it's the only thing that keeps us free. Thank you for hearing my opinions, my voice, and my heart regarding all of this. God bless America, and God bless Charlie Kirk." Thank you.
These people speaking out is everything. Turning Point will collapse. It will. There are parents and students who don't want Club America in their high school. There are college campuses, as we've seen, who don't want any association with Erica Kirk and this whole manipulation of whatever it is. And kudos to this young man for speaking out. I want to thank Colin at Project Constitution for sharing this, and he shares cutting edge stuff regularly. Thanks for being here. Stay safe. Don't know why he is claiming Charlie was martyred for his faith when he's acknowledging the depth of Israel's involvement, ties, alleged ties. This is pretty brave of this kid.